Yeah, I think a big thing is Dig really just needs to clean up their gameplay, in my opinion. I think it's been a bit sloppy from them, and then comparing the start of this game and how this game ended up in comparison to their set earlier against Orbit, it just seems like they're not as focused and synergized as a team in comparison to how they were earlier.
Yeah, I really think just the execution on both sides just needs to be better. And if that becomes a lot more crisp, then both of them will perform a lot better in the LAN.
As a coach, Daisy, are you happy with the bans so far that they saw in the last set and the picks? And this time around, we're seeing, the same sort of thing, it seems.
Yeah, in all honesty, I do quite like the Bracken and Kepri ban, because that does seem like something that they're very used to, a little Sanguine. I mean, they've come in strong with it. But at the same time, they're letting through the Athena, which is clearly something that they are very practiced on, and they're very consistent on. I say consistent, I mean, they're consistently picking it.
Well, you say the Athena, but Dignitas are going to take it away from Cherryo this game as well, which kind of limits the options we've seen out of Cherryo so far. Taco in the jungle, we've seen the Bracken, we've seen the Athena. What else is he going to do?
Well, I mean, Naja's definitely still on the table for Cherryo, so I wouldn't count that option out. There's still the option as well for Thor, which I wouldn't be too surprised if Cherryo were willing to pull it out now that he doesn't have 200 ping.
Yeah, no, that definitely comes into the fact. Oh, they're actually going with the Ymir pick.
Now, that could be jungle still, because we've seen Cherryo do it days of old gone by. Back in the original days, FrostiaK was one that liked to do that as well for him.
Yeah, no, I'd really like to see this actually going into the jungle. It seems that they, as a team, are having the most success by far, like with these Guardians in the jungle. And like whenever they played the normal picks like Naja and stuff into Orbit, they didn't really perform as well.
I mean, Cherryo, for me, he spoke to me beforehand saying he likes being on the Guardians in the jungle because he likes to be a front line for his team. It seems to work with his synergy. Do you have to play around the styles that they have, Taco? Do you want to try and focus on what they are comfortable to play?
I think for sure, Sanguine's style is definitely geared and pretty much oriented entirely towards this jungle mid setup. I mean, Dodo, as a player, I don't feel as though his god pool is the most expansive and flexible in comparison to other SPL mids. You can see, like, in these past 2 days, he's only been playing heavily towards that Isis, and we've seen a little bit of Vulcan out of him, but that didn't go too well. I think he prefers to have this, like, utility kind of setup for his team, and it seems to be that they're going to be locking in that Geb to try and complement this double Guardian thing that Sanguine's thing going with.
I actually really like the Geb pick here, especially into the Athena and the 4. Like the Geb shield, it will cleanse the CC, of course.
Yep.
So if the Geb can stay away from the taunt, it means he'll be able to cleanse those CCs and they'll be able to engage really, really quickly off of that.
So Murrdurr's basically going to be the backline here, and just peel work is his real job here, and allow Cherryo to be the one to really go in. This seems to be very established already, their comp.
Yeah, they're going to be using Cherryo and Nika to be the engagers of the comp.
Now, what actually synergizes well with this composition then? The last two picks needed a solo laner and a hunter here. What were you expecting, Daisy?
Hopefully a hyper carry, in my opinion. I think that's the main thing that they've been lacking in their comps. So something like a Shibalonki, which hasn't actually been banned out this time.
That's
they
true.
Could be running this time. It does actually look pretty decent here, in my opinion.
And
yeah,
Taco,
actually, sort of,
from your point of view as well, Dignitas here, obviously their comp pretty standard for the most part here. What are you looking to round out that one?
Considering that Jingwei, Anhur, Hu Yi have all been taken off the table, I think that I wouldn't be surprised if Team Dignitas opted to go for an Apollo potentially, maybe try and open up the map and include that global presence. Sanguine going for the Rama pick, so...
We'll see the Rama for Arkkyl here, obviously, and there's a lot of hunters and hunters overall banned here, especially with Freya, Chronos, Jingwei on one side. So sometimes he's got to go a little bit deeper here, Taco, but he's got a very deep god pool anyway.
It's just going to be a bit complicated in my opinion, because one thing that he has to consider is that Sanguine have a pretty CC heavy comp again, and I think Dig really need more than just a bot ult to complement and try and counterplay that. Because they did struggle in the last game heavily, because if they didn't have that bot ult up, there was really no way for them to try and counter-engage. Meanwhile, Sanguine had that constant Athena, Isis combination, and now they're just going to have to be dealing with a Mirror Freeze into the Isis Spirit Balls, which is just as potent.
I was actually hoping for the Apollo pick to come out, just because if they did pick that, their global pressure would have been absolutely insane.
Athena and Apollo and Thor, yeah.
Exactly, but now they're going with the Soul pick, which I do also like. It has different aspects of the team comp, because now they're coming out with more magical damage, which I would say they do need on the comp, really. But maybe now you could argue that they are lacking the physical with the 4, but it might not be enough, but I think it should be, but I'm not entirely sure.
Well, you asked for a hypercarry for Sanguine. We did get one in Rama here, but it's going to be a lot of focus on to Arkkyl here to really perform for this Sanguine squad to come through. There's not a massive amount of damage coming out from the rest of the squad there. Obviously, Dodo will still do decent work on an Isis, but if she gets focused down, could cause them a few issues here. Okay, calls. Let's go.
I have to root for my boys.
Of course you do. Daisy?
From the comps, I would definitely say Sanguine.
Who would you rather win, though?
Ooh.
That's the question.
I'm not sure. I think maybe a split is best for us. I'm not entirely sure. I haven't really looked into it that much, but...
Well, the casters will bring us all the action from game 2 here. Sanguine did find the first one, so they're even on 4 points. This one will change things.
Certainly will change things. Exciting play will not be changed, however. Sanguine versus Team Dignitas. Very exciting matchup coming here, and we should see the conclusion. Honestly, I would never have predicted 4 wins in a row, but who knows?
You never know right now. Both teams are at 4 points right now, like we mentioned before. Sanguine, they do have that head-to-head record with 3 wins to Dignitas. They could get that last remaining win, but it's very important for Dignitas to walk away here with a split if they still want to stay relevant. Getting in that top 2 position is so important.
And I think it's certainly possible and certainly plausible, but I got to go along with what Dazer said. The composition that we see out of Sanguine is really just very, very hot. One of my issues that I had with some of the earlier Athena jungle compositions that we saw out of Sanguine was a lack of damage. But that's not anything you ever really have to worry about when Ymir is here. Cherryo is going to have a lot of specifically early game damage on this Ice Giant, and then as the game gets later and later, his control will just go up and up and up.
It's just such a short cooldown, that Ice Carpet, having 8 seconds. And the space control right now for Sanguine between Ymir, Isis, and Geb. How are you ever going to really come close to them between all their crowd control and the walls specifically?
Yeah, I mean, that's going to be a problem going forward. Watching Cherryo and TheDarkDodo as well. I mean, that's going to be, you're going to have the circle of protection down, and then of course Murrdurr. If you do actually get close to everybody, you're going to get knocked up. You're going to get handled by a lot of the Sanguine squad. And then of course you've got Arkkyl on the ROM. If he's mid-range, he's going to just shoot you with the arrows. If he's long-range, he's going to go up into that ultimate. A lot of options for this Sanguine unit.
But to deal with the circle protection, it seems that BigManTingz has an option to go for that curse early on, trying to negate some of that important healing that Dodo's heavily relying on, as well as trying to slow down this immobile composition from Sanguine.
You know what it was, and I'm glad you brought up that second point, because for me out of TheDarkDodo, it wasn't really about the healing coming out of Circle of Protection. It was the actual protection. It was the damage reduction that I saw a lot of last match. We saw the Circle of Protection come down as soon as FrostiaK came to the back line and dropping that ultimate, and it really stopped Dignitas from, they had a fantastic counter initiate, but their engage and the follow-through wasn't there, not for lack of trying, but because they couldn't find any damage. Different story right away. Murrdurr in some trouble, slowed down with the early curse, but check out that turnaround damage. Dignitas taking just a little bit too much from the archers.
The archers were separated, but now FrostiaK coming from the side, the double tap and the Berserker Barrage, gonna find the first blood for Dignitas.
And that was a beautiful early rotation. I mean, we get surprised when we see the 130 rotation, that minute rotation, that was called, totally break this down, you've played on teams before, for the jungler to reach that lane by a minute, that call has to be made 20 seconds in advance.
The issue was Dignitas, they negated the left side mid Harpies just to go for that play on the left. They saw so much action at level 2 in the dual lane. It's so tempting for a jungler just to see it, and their eyes just light up. It's like, here comes the first blood, I got the speed buff, I got my hammer and the damage. At level 2 Thor is nothing to play around with his passive, amplifying his damage also.
Like you said though, it was sort of, you give up one to gain another. Dignitas do pick up the first blood, but they give up the majority of the jungle camps. Those early jungle camps amount to a lot. You get 500 gold for a first blood, and yet Dignitas still only find themselves up by about 100 gold. So Sanguine was able to really mitigate a lot of the problems from that first blood by just picking up things like the right side Harpies.
Right now, it's just Nika getting bullied under the, or Ducky rather getting bullied, but a nice rotation yet again from FrostiaK, making presence in the dual lane and the solo, not finding the kill, but this alleviates enough pressure for Ducky playing the Amaterasu to get out of the laning phase.
And that's gonna, not gonna push Nika back actually, because Cherryo's here. I thought that was gonna send Nika back to base. Not gonna be the case, however.
It's going to be Cherryo at level 5 right now. He's been making the nice jungle rotations. Despite not finding the kill, he's been able to get more experience right now than FrostiaK, because there was a triple split wave on the left-hand side as a result of that first blood.
And of course, what we were talking about, all the jungle camps that were sort of ignored by Dignitas in an effort to get that first blood, all wind up with Cherryo's name on it, so.
And that's going to give them another rotation of these Fire Giant Elementals, which gives a lot of gold to your jungler. That's nothing to really sneeze at with the Bummer's Mask. That doesn't get split up, so that's 90 gold on every single minute and 50 seconds that those respawn.
Soul's going to do a good job of clearing this wave really quick. And Dignitas honestly should have the control of this lane, but Sanguine have been doing a good job of mitigating that nonsense.
It's all about waiting for the Athena taunt to come out before you use that Geb cleanse. The shield health is pretty solid also at this early on. It's going to negate some of the damage from Suntouch, but Sanguine have to be so careful because the later this laning phase goes, Suntouch playing the soul is going to be a big factor.
We'll see how that one works its way into the mid game. So more of a mid-game character than a late-game character, or would you say really a heavy beast like the Freyas and the Chronos?
Definitely like the Freya and the Chronos is both mid to late game. Even if you have some opportunities in the early game with your abilities, if you can synergize your Supernova with the second ability, Stellar Burst, you could still find some kill potential with that initial knockup. But the damage mid to late game is just so high, especially when you have 100% heat off of your passive.
And the beauty of it is that heat is something that you get that up by using an ability, but really from that point, it's just about consistency, landing those basics. And something she does very well is not only landing those basics, but using those basics to tear up the towers as well. So look for a lot of structure damage specifically out of Suntouch on this soul.
Cherryo was looking for a gank on the right-hand side, but slightly out of range for that Frost Breath, and I like the idea to try to keep shutting down this Amaterasu because her late game with her aura, giving the mobility that they really need, it's not something you want to be dealing with. So by constantly ganking that lane, you're limiting her rotations around the gold fury.
And that's just disallowing some of what Dignitas I think are looking for. So just keeping that in mind and making sure to make the correct plays is certainly something that Sanguine can keep doing. Dignitas have the first blood on the board, but Sanguine are all tied up here. Nobody really with a large lead, despite the fact that there's a 1 kill on the board already. Sanguine have found their win last time around, honestly, off of a number of different factors. What do you think was the major driving force for Sanguine to bring the W home?
It was all about their team compositions. They played around each other just so well. They were always grouped up when they needed to be. The first set against Dignitas, they relied heavily on this healing and survivability composition between the Khepri support and Guan Yu the first game, and then the second game, it was the Ra. But this time around, Dignitas have prevented it from happening.
Beautiful wall coming out to stop the Raijin. ShadowNightmare in some trouble. He's going to Shadow Crash away. And there's the difference to turn around the TheDarkDodo. And he'll be able to help out his own team right there. No kill, but Sanguine certainly have the pressure, and they're going to look to take down this Tier 1 tower. Not by themselves, however. Here's some resistance. There's the Athena getting into some trouble, and BigManTingz does what he can.
Murrdurr was taking so much damage. It was nice patience from Big Man, waiting for the knockup from Geb to get the tower aggro, and then taunting him back in with a nice follow-up from FrostiaK. Unfortunately, not finding the kill, but they do defend that Tier 1 mid tower, only losing about half of its health.
And there's a little bit of a fight in the left lane. Mid lane, however, a big old fight. Cherryo going to get chunked down to about 10% HP off of a single hit of the hammer. One little shot from ShadowNightmare here. Now, right now, very early on, is where a lot of damage is coming online for Dig.
It was a nice reaction from Cherryo, using his ultimate to prevent himself from getting taunted by BigManTingz, and as a result, FrostiaK couldn't find the double tap that he needed to, but he's going to find the stun. Beautiful cleanse from Murrdurr.
Cherryo's going to get a freeze one more time, and there's the Athena ult channel. Cherryo in a lot of trouble, and BigManTingz might be able to make it happen. There's the dash, the taunt into the shield wall, but the second hit won't find a home, and Cherryo able to get out TheDarkDodo, not as lucky.
FrostiaK getting nice kill, but he is a little low, so he's going to have to back off right now. Nika making the rotation, but not really anything to happen. Left-hand side, Arkkyl and Suntouch, they're still just very content with farming right now. Both of these characters are these mid to late game gods. They're both going for stacking items. Do more for Suntouch, Devil Glows for Arkkyl.
No real fight coming out here. Should we expect a Hunter v Hunter? We know that Arkkyl was willing to take the fight against Jermaine. Suntouch isn't exactly one to start the fight, but he'll take it if you come to him. Should we expect Arkkyl to be aggressive?
It's all about how Suntouch wants to play this. He controls the driver's seat right now. He's going to be trying to get these stellar bursts off whenever he can, and it's up to Arkkyl to really dodge roll away from it, preventing the poke. And if he does get poked, it's not the end of the world because he does have that lifesteal anyway.
So certainly a good look for the guys on Sanguine as far as this long lane is concerned. But Suntouch going to do his best to not allow Arkkyl to even come anywhere close. Not rolling away from that Stellar Burst like you were talking about. Not using his abilities to the best of his ability. Instead, just going to take a whole bunch of poke.
This could also be a bait by Arkkyl, allowing Suntouch to keep pushing up the lane to allow any sort of counter-rotation gank coming from Sanguine right now. But it's going to be the Thor on FrostiaK that has the global presence. There's no real global presence other than Arkkyl on the Rom snipes.
And Arkkyl gets hit again. He can't avoid any of these shots at the Suntouch, narrowly avoiding the freeze. This is going to be FrostiaK thanks to a hammer dash. But Cherryo almost looked like he wanted to drop a wall and get very aggressive. Instead, Dignitas going to play their spacing correctly.
With FrostiaK's hammer being down, it's not a bad idea for that wall to come up because you do have Murrdurr right beside you. He could find that Gep ult and the knockup, which would set up a lot of continuation damage. Taunt onto Nika, but no real follow-up. Instead, Dignitas just wanted to get those elementals and walk away.
ShadowNightmare going to be pushed up onto his tower by 3 different people. And now Sanguine going to make their way into the enemy jungle. Cherryo leading the way right there. Ducky versus Nika going about as we expected. But like I said, 3 different players in Dignitas' jungle. Here comes the ultimate out of ShadowNightmare. As everybody lines up, they're all in the corner. And the damage onto Dodo is going to be stopped by Cherryo. But FrostiaK finally finds the last hit.
A nice rotation from Nika, finding a double stun, but it's not in time to really save anybody. So Ducky getting the counter initiation with the Athena ult on top, but a beautiful wall from Cherryo preventing the taunt. Overall, it was a 2-for-1.
You can't place a better wall. I mean, that was as soon as the Athena came down and had the taunt available, just negated by that ability.
And the question is, what was Sanguine thinking there? Just invading those back right Harpies, grouping up. All of them got stunned out by the Thor wall. Double Tap was just doing so much damage. On top of that, ShadowNightmare was just chunking them away with his ultimate on Broadway.
I mean, that was really the troublesome situation. I don't even, like, the invade onto the back Harpies is questionable, but okay, you're 3 players, right? You've got a Ymir. That's a great character for these early game invades. You've got a lot of choices, a lot of options, but all of a sudden, ShadowNightmare just had the perfect opportunity. 3 players in a queue, just getting shot by his ultimate.
And not only that, you have to worry about the rotation from Ducky. A nice taunt onto Dodo, but it's going to get cleansed out by Murrdurr. And now BigManTingz, he doesn't have a dash, he's getting body blocked.
Knocked up and silenced, but down from the sky comes FrostiaK. Beautiful setup, and BigManTingz can escape. And ShadowNightmare going to Shadow Crash on top of Nika. There's the damage onto the solo lane one more time, and that'll be that.
Both teams feeling extremely frisky right now, but look at this rotation from Ducky. He's very healthy, whereas Nika has to back. Cherryo's backing as well. This could be a Gold Fury possibility, but they're playing it super safe right now. FrostiaK and Ducky heading over to their speed instead.
Yeah, I don't know if there's enough room there, Toli. Might be a little bit of a uphill battle to go for that Gold Fury. You know, I keep calling ShadowNightmare's Thunder Crash Shadow Crash. As I see him, it's just maybe different players should have their own abilities.
So he's like a superhero now? That's his ability? Shadow Crash.
I mean, he's Shadow Man, right?
Yeah.
Coming out and making these plays, but he's been anything but sitting in the shadows. Front and center limelight for Dignitas. A lot of what they've been able to do has been out of this mid lane.
Yeah, because of his plays before. We saw him play the Scylla. He was doing so much work. He's very confident playing all these high skill capability gods. Ducky taking a little bit of poke, but changing his aura stances will just get him topped off anyway.
You could have cut that sentence short about halfway through. ShadowNightmare is very confident, full stop. That's really what's allowed him to be so successful, I think. ShadowNightmare has been around the scene for a long time. He's been on a number of teams, and unfortunately has really yet to find any true success, but he's got confidence in himself. We've seen a number of players come and go because they haven't been able to find that success. Players like Saya, who are individually talented, but weren't able to really find success because of teams or otherwise, and then kind of leave the scene. ShadowNightmare sticking to his guns.
It's all about consistency and how long you've been playing with the same squad for. We see FrostiaK and ShadowNightmare, despite switching their other members, those two specifically have stuck around with each other for quite a long time. And if Dignitas, they want to keep excelling in the SPL right now, they need to find their core roster and not switch it any longer. They need to just be able to stick things out and improve with every single game.
Which is why I like the switch from Suntouch, moving from support to Hunter. I actually, at the beginning of the season, I wasn't too thrilled about it because I was so high on Suntouch's ability to play that support. I loved him in that position last split, but when he said he was switching over to the Hunter role, I was very happy that it wasn't a full team gut. It's just, all right, we're going to move one of our players to a different position and grab a strong support. I like that decision because sticking with some of the same players and keeping that consistency that you were talking about is sometimes more important than getting the top shelf himself talent.
And he's a jack of all trades. He's played every single role competitively in the SPL at one point or another. So who else would you really want to switch their roles other than Suntouch?
Cherryo sets up a nice freeze and goes into the ultimate for himself. BigManTingz takes a big man chunk, and Cherryo puts number 4 on the board or number 1 for Sanguine, finally getting themselves a little bit of notice. Dignitas don't find a turnaround kill like they have in virtually every other contest, and Sanguine finally find themselves with a kill on the board, and they get out clean. Very important play right there for the red team.
FrostiaK unfortunately just came a little bit too late there in the team fight, but look at this on the dual lane side. Arkkyl getting the better end of Suntouch right now. He also has the ultimate if he really wanted to go for that kill. There's no Sanctuary onto Suntouch, and the Samurai was down.
I guess he doesn't really want to commit too hard. One, because of some of the lack of the vision in there. You see you have a ward over there just on the Gold Fury, but that's about it. Should he go into the ultimate, all of a sudden he can get collapsed on and just collapse himself.
There's a lot of good sentry wards and vision control for Sanguine there if they really wanted to force out the Gold Fury, because the fact that Suntouch had to back, FrostiaK didn't have his ultimate, so Suntouch had to go on the left side to pick up the wave. So if you're going to bait out Gold Fury there, you could at least deny that whole wave to Suntouch, extending Arkyl's lead.
Mid lane now, ShadowNightmare going to group up with FrostiaK and get some farm for himself. Right side, we see a tower down. Sanguine unable to protect their tier 1 tower this early on. Solo lane has already gone the way of Ducky, but still fighting it out here is Ducky and Nika. Two of the rookies. I guess Ducky has poked his head here and there, but two really flashy rookies, I think, here in our SPL season.
BigManTingz, though, he's trying to set up a play right now for his Suntouch. The Purification is still available for Arkkyl, but with this dash taunt, it could be the necessary tool for the next teamfight engagement. Instead, they're going to clear out the left-hand side, still position themselves around this Gold Fury as the Sentry Ward battle happens.
FrostiaK going to land in between everybody on Sanguine, not really finding the stun, dashing forward, and Dodo is in trouble, but FrostiaK is in more trouble. ShadowNightmare finds the long-range crush as Cherryo gets 1 kill for himself as well. It's a 1-for-1 so far, but here comes Ducky all the way out of the solo lane. Stunned, and there's the ultimate out of Athena. Cherryo's gone. Suntouch with the last hit. Surging forward to the guys from Sanguine. There's the rush, there's the sprint, and there's the kill. Nika gets 1 for himself as well. ShadowNightmare. Arkkyl gets 1 as well.
3 for 2 right now. Sanguine coming on top of that team fight. BigManTingz very low. He doesn't have his ultimate to get back in there, so it's important for Suntouch to find this miracle steal away from Sanguine.
Now he doesn't have any really hot abilities from a distance. He's getting zoned out pretty well. Even if Murrdurr's just walking away from him, he's doing the job of zoning and keeping Suntouch away from the objective. So with that team fight and with that objective, Sanguine ties the game up. It's 38k gold all across the board.
First big objective win right there goes to Sanguine in their favor. Now FrostiaK, he kind of jumped the gun, I would say, at the beginning of that engagement. We saw him just come out of nowhere, completely missing his ultimate, his engage, and then once he saw Dodo getting the stun, the double tap, his eyes lit up. He thought he could go for the kill, getting traded 1-for-1. He also baited out his team in an awkward position where it allowed the nice rotation from Nika to really clean up.
And you know, one of the more problematic things that happened there from FrostiaK is he makes a good play on Arkkyl, but it likely won't be enough. Arkkyl actually with the dive, it certainly will be. Sanctuary going to save him for the moment. But with a little bit of assistance, he should fall down, and he will. FrostiaK on the good side. Suntouch narrowly avoids the smash, but Nika makes up for it and finds it anyway.
Yet again, FrostiaK just missing the ultimate, and it took too long to kill Arkkyl, and as a result, the rotation from Nika able to find the return kill 1-for-1. ShadowNightmare, though, he's getting engaged, and he has nowhere to go from the wall.
Walled out and ulted on by the Ymir. ShadowNightmare suffers 25% of his life, and then ShadowNightmare finds the kill onto the TheDarkDodo. Down from the sky comes BigManTingz with the ultimate. Taunts 2 in the direction. ShadowNightmare under the tower. FrostiaK in the jungle. Both players got to play it safe. They're half HP or lower.
Perfect Sanctuary from ShadowNightmare. It baited out so many cooldowns from Sanguine, and then as a result, there was no cooldowns to protect Dodo in the backline. Ducky made the nice rotation, went for the all-in play, and Murrdurr's Geb Shield was just not enough to really keep Dodo alive.
I'm loving the back and forth here, Toli. I think Dignitas understand that. So both teams, all the teams here are going to play each other in 2 separate sets of 2, right? And Sanguine have already won 3 out of the 4. Dignitas now, they're not going to be able to win this series however you want to paint it, right? But it's about making a statement. You can't get swept by Sanguine. I mean, this is the team that a lot of people poised as number 4 here. Dignitas, a lot of people had as number 2. You can't get swept by the quote-unquote bottom team. So Dignitas now, this game is, I think, less about the points on the board and more about the pride in the pocket, in all honesty.
At this point, yes, Dignitas, if they lose to Sanguine 2 times in a row here, going forward with Elevate and Orbit yet again, it's not going to be looking pretty for them, especially with how close the group is currently. Both Dignitas and Sanguine at 4 points, Elevate right behind them at 3, and Orbit's not too far away at 7.
You know, FrostiaK is sitting here 5-1-2, Anatoly, but I feel like his slash line is sort of defying the game that he's had. I think that slash line looks very, very good. He's got 5 kills, only a single death, but a lot of the issues that Dignitas have had here in these team fights are off of sort of missed Thor abilities. We were celebrating FrostiaK before, and unfortunately, I think this is kind of the calling card for Team Dignitas or FrostiaK in general. Suntouch in some trouble, but should be fine until the snipes come out. And that'll be that.
He
Arkkyl
sees the
cleans
Thor
him
in
up.
the air, but he's still going to come landing down. He's going to roll away, not able to get it, but the Geb Shield, that's not enough to keep him alive. And now the counter rotation from Nika, yet again, trying to find a cleanup kill.
You know, as a caster, all I can do is smile there. The situation continuing. ShadowNightmare in some trouble, putting out an ultimate of his own. Nika can't catch up, but Ducky will catch up to Dodo. That's one mid laner going down. The other found a way out. FrostiaK in some trouble, immune for the moment, and finds his teleport to Hammer. Ducky's going to avoid the damage at a Cherryo. Here comes BigManTingz with the ultimate. Down on top of nobody. The damage not taken advantage of, but certainly the defensive part was. That'll save the life of Ducky, and 2 players will find the escape. It's a 2-for-1 going the way of Dignitas.
Unfortunately, Cherryo was just not quite there in time for that team fight. As a result, it was Sanguine playing a man down the whole time around. ShadowNightmare was barely able to escape that because of Nika.
You know, like I said before, watching FrostiaK make that perfect play on top of Arkkyl for the punishment kill, that right there, as a caster, all I can do is really smile, because I was starting to paint this picture, which I still think is true. I think FrostiaK is an inconsistent player, and we've seen all of the positives, all of the good side from him here at LAN so far. This game, unfortunately, we're not seeing that positive until right when I bring it up, and he makes a beautiful play, punishing the Hunter for taking out the Hunter as well. FrostiaK not only makes the kill, but gets out after the subsequent team fight. That's how you make up for it. He's got to find a way to take this 5-1-4 slash line. Right now, it's a little bit deceptive of his performance. Turn it around. We're 20 minutes in. Last game went almost 40 minutes. There's a lot of time for FrostiaK to be able to make this game into something positive to remember.
It's all how about you transition in the early game. Suntouch, though, it's going to take a lot of damage from those all 3 snipes from Arkkyl, forcing the disengage by Big Man and Suntouch. And going back to FrostiaK right now, it's all about how you transition that early game, because Sanguine, they were the ones that were able to get the first important objective of the game because of the team fight composition, I would say, between them. Just Cherryo right now in Murrdurr, they just control so much space. It's really hard for FrostiaK to get in position in these team fights, so he's looking for more of these picks on the side lanes more than anything else.
Which honestly isn't that bad of a plan. Thor's one of these characters that does have different sort of gears to shift into. He can be your team fight man, he can be your straight assassination, he can be your secondary support even. When he falls behind, you see a lot of players just default to straight crowd control and using the ultimate to drop down and help teleport out immediately. Right now, FrostiaK is at this these crossing roads. He's built completely offensively with the hi-rez, the Jotans, and then even more power and penetration into the beat stick. But at some point, he's also got to provide some of the defensive plays as well, so we're going to see how this transitions for him and this team.
A nice little stun from FrostiaK, disengaging, allowing ShadowNightmare to retreat, and despite getting more kills right now than Cherryo, he's been behind most of the game experience-wise. Cherryo now 3 levels ahead of FrostiaK.
And right there, FrostiaK going to find a great stun. More importantly, a separation. 2 players on the left, 3 players on the right. That allows Team Dignitas to sort of regroup. Unfortunately, Sanguine now are going to be all over the place. ShadowNightmare in a lot of trouble. Cherryo forces out the Shadow Crash out of the mid laner. And there, up in the sky goes Rom, chasing the mid lane, but nobody needs to chase Ducky. He goes down right in the middle of the scrum, right next to his support, who goes down as well. That's 2 kills on the side of Team Dignitas, while Sanguine are alive and healthy. All 5 players going to look towards the goal.
The timing couldn't have been any better with this Golthier respawning now. It just seemed both of these teams kind of staggered in their teamfight. Abilities were being whiffed left, right, and center, but now once the Ymir walls came into fruition, you can't really miss abilities when everybody's grouped up around this Ymir wall, favoring Sanguine with another nice Golthier objective.
Again, with that Gold Fury, Sanguine finds himself with a very slight lead, something I'm hesitant to really call much of anything. About 2,000 going to them. You can see they're going to push that tower down on the left side as well, so that's 500 gold going the way of Sanguine one more time. And this is the first time we can really call something a real lead, I think, on the side of Sanguine. Dignitas had 2K before. Now it's Sanguine's time to have 2K. Both these leads are very, very fleeting. Sanguine are going to have to protect this with their life, and in order to do so, they have to make the next step. Where does Sanguine stretch their lead?
They're just going to stretch their lead in these jungle fights. The Ymir walls from Cherryo is going to be the key factor to try to get any pick that they potentially can, even if it's going to be onto BigManTingz, who can't get through a walls, forcing out maybe even Suntouch. If you can force out the escapes between FrostiaK and ShadowNightmare, now they're not using these cooldowns offensively, so Sanguine can really take advantage of that.
So we're certainly going to be looking for Sanguine to find those windows of opportunity and really find those picks. Ducky, on the other hand, he's suffered 2 separate deaths so far, and they've both been in relatively quick succession. These past 2 team fights, we've seen him die twice. Once for each team fight, obviously. So as these team fights continue, he's really got to find a way to protect himself just a little bit. The build is certainly there. It's going to be all about his actions now.
It's going to be how he zones out the damage dealers from Sanguine. He has to zone out Arkkyl right now. It's just too much damage. A nice little wall, but unfortunately, BigManTingz finding the dash around the corner. And Sanguine, they're feeling very confident that they can take this aggressive positioning around the Fire Giant, despite not having any sort of player advantage. They're just relying purely on their team fight potential,
which has been working out for them so far. So right now, teams are sort of getting ready. Nice little slowdown onto Arkkyl.
That's 2 stellar bursts already that Arkkyl just took for free right now, so he's going to have to sustain a little bit before this next team fight.
And in the lane, we saw him really just have trouble avoiding that one. Big team fight. Let's ride along with Team Dignitas as they try to slaughter Sanguine.
That's eyes speed as well.
Okay. Let's get some posture and let's set the pace of the game.
Yeah. Don't go that bit. Don't let through. Don't let through. I get Taunts as they come up here. I'll get Taunts as they come up.
Looking for mid tower here.
I have the hip.
They got Taunt, big Taunt! I'm all tower as well, get tower as well.
I'm gonna hit in the tower, I need help. I got something.
Oh. Alright, reset. They're gonna do fire up us. Reset. They're probably gonna get me. Murder's quite low. Murder's actually quite low.
I'm reclink. They don't have ices for fire. Maybe we can get there in time.
Alright, sure.
Good.
Alright, Romer, you may roll it.
Don't worry, we just defend over him.
Yeah.
I'm healthy.
Geb as well.
I
got to Hootie now.
Geb's so low. This is not gonna go.
I have no beats in it. There's Ymir on the side. I can Aegis maybe.
Me to clear the way somehow. I got Ymir away from you.
Geb, still
Again,
the zone. Are we doing anything? Ymir is break down. I'm looking for Geb.
Romer's folks.
I'm out. Yeah, I was chilling. I got poked out.
I couldn't do it.
When we didn't clear the wave. Yeah. I'm back. They're all still pretty low.
That was our Steel Series listening to Team Dignitas. You know, we went in there and I entered that one saying, listening to Team Dignitas as they try to slaughter Sanguine. They took a little bit of a step back and then they pushed forward in that mid lane and everything kind of looked really good from here, Tolly. But obviously Sanguine were able to turn that one around and not only win the team fight, but take a couple of towers.
They just dove a little bit too deep under the tier 2. The zoning of the Thor ultimate was good enough of a threat for Sanguine to back off, but the Ducky, he went a little bit too hard. He got caught out by the Ymir wall, nowhere to go. They found an easy pick onto him, and then they continued the onslaught, transitioning into the tier 2 tower on the right-hand side. We heard the listening where they called Geb Murrdurr being very low, but that didn't matter because they still had the crowd control between the Ymir freeze. They still had Geb ulti, which we saw being used, and that completely shut down FrostiaK.
And that comes back to our conversation at minute 1. We were talking about how Sanguine are going to give Dignitas trouble if they try to get too close. There's just too many options available for the Sanguine squad to really sort of stop what Dignitas want to do when they get close. So now Sanguine, right now, they're trying to keep Dignitas far away as the Fire Giant started. Ducky's going to watch as Sanguine pick up the Fire Giant. FrostiaK goes to the sky, Tolly. He's looking for a big one, but down for the count. Suntouch already gets smoked, and FrostiaK wants no part of it. He's going to ult far away from the rest of the guys.
This Ymir pick has been so crucial for Sanguine. They picked it so early on in the draft. They're like, okay, Dignitas take away Athena from us. What's our response? We're just going to take Ymir right away. Just no care in the world. We're still going to run it in the jungle and have all the space control we need.
You know, in the analyst desk before, as Sanguine starts sieging down on the mid Phoenix, keep an eye on FrostiaK on the left side jungle. Here comes the push up. Ducky gets a nice little stun, and up to the sky goes Arkkyl. 1 shot's good. 2 shots just going to be wasted. Not too much after that ultimate, but now the Phoenix going to be engaged on. Half HP already. Cherryo finds a freeze. The rest of the team finds the structure. Down goes the Phoenix. Down goes Arkkyl. FrostiaK finds the kill as well. So Sanguine now have 4 players alive, just like Team Dignitas, but they got what they came for. Here comes Cherryo with the ultimate, gonna blow up Ducky, and Nika gets the final shot.
Nowhere to go with the dash, great body block. FrostiaK still looking for more kills. His ultimate just coming back online. He's probably gonna go onto Cherryo here, but he whiffs, completely frozen. Just not enough damage though to find the kill. The double tap is good, but he falls in the process.
FrostiaK with his dying breath gets the kill with the let go of the hammer, but he falls himself. Turn around, ShadowNightmare finds a kill. Team Dignitas tower under attack by mid lane minions, but Murrdurr is close to death, and Nika will put down the mid lane. Nika still trying to protect, and Suntouch is in trouble. Couple more hits will do it, but he gets taunted out of the bludgeon.
And now it's gonna be Murrdurr trying to find the kill. He's gonna wait for it to separate before the knockup, but Nika with the shield charge dash gonna find the kill. That's gonna be overall 4 for 2. Now Sanguine, they're gonna look for the left side tier 2 tower or the Gold Fury before they continue the onslaught. They still have Fire Giant for about 2 more minutes.
And that's a long timeout for Suntouch. 40 seconds at this moment. He was sitting down for 50 plus, and now Dignitas have to play as good defense as possible, but Sanguine, they've only got that mid-Phoenix. You got to put things in perspective. It seemed like a huge team fight, almost like the end of the game, but it was just a single mid-Phoenix. Dignitas, they're down a whole bunch. With this gold tier, it's going to be about 9,000 gold, but certainly something Dig can fight up against.
But now it's going to be about 9,000 gold after that gold here at the 30-minute mark. They could go for this tier 2 tower on the left-hand side, but they're going to back and spend all their gold. And this late game composition from Sanguine, I would say, between this ROM DPS and then the shields from Murrdurr right now is just keeping everyone alive as long as possible for Sanguine. So not only are they doing the damage, but they're not dying.
Not at all. Absolutely not. And, you know, it's funny. We were talking on the analyst desk earlier, Tolly, about how teams will play with their compositions and try not to reveal their secret strategies or whatnot. And the Athena jungle sort of led into this Ymir jungle. This Ymir jungle is better than we saw Cherryo's Athena jungle. That's got to be by design.
I mean, we've also seen the Kabrakan jungle out of Cherryo yesterday. It just seems to me that he's leaning more on these Guardians than the physical assassin hunters. You know, we know he could play a Naja. We've seen him play the Hunbats before, and teams have been adapting to this, but they're not expecting all these Guardians, and now it's the best time to whip it out.
And here comes the damage from Cherryo one more time. Carpet smack, and Arkkyl finishes it off. Ducky's gonna get stunned as well. Here comes the rest of Sanguine looking for win number 4 against Team Dignitas.
They're still gonna continue this onslaught on the left-hand side. Murrdurr knocking up Suntouch as FrostiaK goes into the sky, landing on Dodo, forcing the Sanctuary.
And there's a follow-up coming out of the Bellona play, but down goes Dodo. Well done by FrostiaK. Picked the target and smoked him out. Ducky in some trouble, half HP. ShadowNightmare so very low. He's gonna find a Thunder Crash away and it's a 1-for-1 so far. Nika's in trouble, walled off, but still able to push forward, and Suntouch pushes him down.
Stellar Burst was good enough to find the kill, but they're not committing onto Suntouch. He's barely able to escape there. The defense on the left-hand side is successful, but FrostiaK running into 3 members, he's gonna pay with his life.
Little bit too much, Toli. I think that one was just too hot to handle for FrostiaK. Goes 1 on into 4, bites off more than he can chew, and winds up choking on it just a little bit. FrostiaK going to sit down 50+ seconds, but good news, his build is finished, so he'll be well and good and ready to fight for the next time. Sanguine now, 32 on the clock, 10K on the lead, 3 kills as well, which tells the story in blood. Sanguine able to find just 3 more kills than Dignitas, but that 10K gold lead comes off of winning the right fights at the right times and finding the right objectives.
Most of Dignitas' kills have been in the early game, and which is why we see such a big lead for Sanguine in the gold department. They found the late game kills, they found the late game objectives that matter so much more. They found the Fire Giant, and they keep extending it. They got the Middle Phoenix, which just respawned now for Dignitas. So Sanguine, they're now positioning themselves around this Fire Giant because they're so confident in their team fight presence right now. Between Cherryo on the Ymir, Murrdurr on this Geb right now, you cannot come close to Sanguine.
No, that's been the entire plan from the get-go. Sanguine just have this bubble around them that if you enter their personal space, you're going to be personally offended, and that's what we've seen. As soon as somebody comes close, Cherryo drops to freeze in the carpet, and then as soon as somebody comes closer, Murrdurr knocks them up. They get stunned, and what I really like is that FrostiaK and everybody has been focusing Dodo, and Nika is just a protector. No ultimate. Eagles Rally does not come out until the mid lane gets a focus.
Ducky, though, he's forced to go on the right-hand side, but walled off his FrostiaK, going into the sky, barely able to retreat. Nika stunning out Suntouch, getting frozen. The snipes coming through. Dodo knocking down Suntouch.
Perfect crowd control combination out of the guys on Sanguine. They're going to keep it going as well. Down he goes. BigManTingz. Arkkyl finds another kill. 9, 4, and 6 for the Hunter.
And they don't even care about Fire Giant. They're going straight into the right side. Phoenix, they could grab middle immediately after this. Nice zoning from Cherryo and Nika. Nobody from Dignitas wants to contest this push.
Firebird goes down. Mid lane is half HP, half power, don't forget. And that's going to go down very quickly, like a hot knife through butter. Down it goes. 2 Phoenixes down for the count, and shifting over to the right-hand side is Sanguine.
They have enough time with the respawns between BigManTingz and Suntouch coming up in 25 seconds or less, and with the zoning from Cherryo with the wall in the freeze. Ducky, though, he's going to still try to do a lot of damage to Cherryo. ShadowNightmare trying to follow up.
And it's not going to be enough. Can't find the damage through the wall. Cherryo nice and low on the backside, but he's on the backside for a reason. ShadowNightmare trying to chase. FrostiaK off the mark, and Arkkyl shuts him down. Huge damage out of the Hunter, and it'll be enough. 3 players down. Suntouch spawns, so just 2.
And now ShadowNightmare nowhere to go. The Athena ultimate trying to mitigate as long as possible, but not in time. Dodo credited with a kill. Arkkyl waiting for his teammates to show up before he sieges this last remaining Phoenix.
Very low are some of the other players on the side of Sanguine. We're actually going to see the Isis ultimate used for a heal to allow this siege to happen. Ducky gets rolled on. Ducky gets smoked. Arkyl's going to play offense and push up forward. Everybody from Team Dignitas on their last heals. Sanguine pushes forward into the throne room. Chaos Titan, Order Titan is going down. And ladies and gentlemen, you're looking right now at Team Dignitas and Sanguine, as Sanguine claim 4 wins against the aforementioned Team Dig.
Who needs Fire Giant? Not Sanguine right now. They get all 4 wins against Dignitas, putting themselves at 6 points right now to end the day for themselves.
You know, like I said, after game number 1 and after game number 2, you can say unlikely, you can even say fluke, I'll only be sort of offended. After 4 wins, you absolutely have to give it to these guys. Nika has been one of the standout players on this team, but when it came down to this set specifically, I think a lot of different players stood up and did their part. TheDarkDodo, I think, has been a little bit lackluster today in this series, to right now actually came through.
And it was just all about Cherryo, I would say, but it's not about what it matters to me. It's what matters to what the analysts have to say. Hindu Man, Taco, and that guy Dazer. What do you guys have to say?
Thanks a lot, Toli. Very interesting performance there coming out once again. This was the number 8 team in Europe, Sanguine Esports. They just defeated number 4 in the standings there. And as you can see how the group is now lining up, you've got Sanguine sat in 2nd position with 6 points. They still got games to play as well, Taco, but so do the boys of Dig.
Yeah, it'll definitely be interesting to see now how tomorrow plays out, considering that Sanguine's next sets are against, you know, Elevate again and Orbit as well. So I think a lot of it's going to be banking for Dignitas are definitely banking on the boys of Orbit over here to pull it out for them and to hopefully clean up their gameplay for tomorrow. I think a big issue that they encountered, again, against Sanguine was I felt like they were just playing into Sanguine's comp.
Yeah, when we actually talk about that, during picks and bans as well, Daisy, I mean, we saw that Suntouch ended up going with the Sol there. He got focused a lot in the counterban phase, and that came back to haunt Dignitas a little bit.
Yeah, no, it really did. I really think that in terms of the comp, Dignitas really played into the hands of Sanguine. Like, taking that Athena early, yes, in theory it would work well, but obviously they have plans for that with the Ymir pick. So it seems like, yeah, because, I mean, in general, it just sort of, he just got destroyed by it, honestly.
We'll go back to the Ymir pick a little bit more as well there, because we saw Sunder again from Cherryo. We've seen it on Cabrakan, we've seen it on the Athena, and now we've seen it on a Ymir. How do you feel about the Sunder?
I'm not really sure exactly. I feel like it's not entirely that good, but I mean, it seems to work well. Obviously, they've won their games, but I feel like, again, like the same with the Cabrakan, I think the Blink, on the whole, is usually a lot better.
But it seemed to play into their style, though, overall, their Taco, and it got them going pretty well. Those walls from Cherryo seemed to be on point, and that was the important thing for this composition.
The thing about the Sunder in comparison, I know most people are a lot more conditioned and used to seeing characters like Cabrakan and Ymir whenever they're in the jungle role to be picking up the Blink as they're active for that engage, but at the same time, even though like Cherryo had the Sunder, I think he was utilizing it pretty effectively, and that he was using it primarily on Ducky. So Ducky wasn't really able to come in as big of a factor as I think Dignitas would have wanted him to be on that Amaterasu.
Was he?
Yeah, he just died. That's it. That's kind of what Sunder does.
I should say as well in that clip there, you can just see how effective the walls are, and again here.
Yeah.
Like he played amazingly with these walls. I feel like as well, Dig really played into the hands of Cherryo and just let him get these walls off constantly.
And Cherryo and Sanguine, I mean, picking up all 4 wins against Dignitas, I don't think they would have expected that themselves going into this. Maybe 1 or 2 if they were lucky. But now the pressure kind of is on Dignitas, and for me, the Dig boys remind me of the England football team. The classic, they're English, right? As well as the sponsors English, for the players are English. It's like English football. They have to go behind early before they have a chance of getting out of the group.
Yeah, I know they're probably going to be pretty concerned about it, but I think tonight they're going to revamp and come in pretty refreshed tomorrow and hopefully be prepared.
I mean, they came in all refreshed and ready for things today, and they got off to a great start against Orbit as well. But that's enough of that anyway. We should be moving over to FDOT because he's got the boy Cherryo and the Sunday Ymir jungler alongside him.
Absolutely. Cherryo has been lights out across the board. You hear us talking a lot about you and everything. So, you know what? That's enough out of us. Why don't you talk to us about who you are and what you do?
My name is Cherryo. I'm from Egypt. I play for Sanguine, but I'm the jungler. I've been in the same team, like leftovers for the whole season, pretty much. Yeah.
And it's worked out really well. A lot of people, when we talk about Cherryo, things like Naja come to mind, even Hun Batz, but we see a very different flavor this time around.
Yeah,
talk to me about the Guardians.
Basically, we know everyone wants to ban Hun Batz and Naja against me. They know that I like these gods, and I thought at this time I'd surprise everyone with a different playstyle. No one is ready for. Like the Guardians, they just work out so well with our. Like if you think about the gods that play Naja, Thor, Hun Batz, they all have that CC that I work better with CC gods to set up for Dodo and my team. So that's why I'm picking Guardians. They do pretty much the exact same thing, it's just a different. Like just magical instead of physical, pretty much.
Just a different flavor, like I said. We noticed the Ymir absolutely coming out and killing it. And to that nature, you know, you guys on Sanguine are certainly killing it. Make no bones about it. A lot of people, you weren't exactly the #1 team coming in here, but 4 wins against Team Dignitas. 1, did you expect that? And 2, what does it feel like?
Yeah, we definitely expected that. Like we've been in scrims we've been doing so well, but obviously it's not everything. But we feel that we're improving day by day. We found what we like to play, and we're getting better at it. Like we lost the Orbit games, and we realized what the mistakes are. We realized that we just made some mistakes. I'm not going to go into specifics, obviously, but it's just small stuff that against Elevate, we could have won these games pretty easily. We were ahead both games. It's just small individual mistakes that throw the game. So I think we're pretty confident going into tomorrow. I think if we 2-0 Elevate, I think we're guaranteed Super Regional. So we're gonna look for that, and hopefully we can make it there.
You mentioned a lot about mistakes. My last question to you is, what's different about this squad going forward, and how are you going to succeed and make your way to Super Regionals?
I think I'm more confident with this team. Like obviously LC were really my friends and at last LAN and everything, but I really didn't have any experience. I was the new guy, the rookie on the team going to LAN. But here I have a lot more experience. I have Murrdurr, who's been like Worlds, and he's been really helpful for the team. And then I trust Dodo, and Arkkyl is like a completely different playstyle from Shaggy. Like Arkkyl talks a lot in how what he needs to do and stuff. And Nika's amazing.
Awesome. Well, again, congratulations on your
Thanks.
win. That's Cherryo from Sanguine. We'll be right back in a few with some more Smite Esports.
Thank you.